Hello everyone, welcome to the Oral Communication in Context Week 2. So our discussion for this week will be all about the models of communication. So this topic is exclusively for the grade 11 students coming from the Binyan City Senior High School, San Antonio campus. So I'm hoping that everyone is having a great day today, and I'm hoping that everyone is still grateful that we are able to continue our education through the dominion of the Department of Education. So I'm hoping that you will learn a lot on this lesson, and I'm hoping that you will enjoy our discussion as we go on with our lesson for this week. Okay, so are you ready? Good to hear that. So before we proceed to the topic itself, of course, I'm going to introduce to you first our teachers in the grade 11 oral communication in context. Okay. Starting with Ma'am Maricel G. Garcia. So she is a grade 11 oral communication teacher for the ICT ICT 2, HE8, IA3, IA2, HE6, BPPFBS, and HE5, BPPFBS. Okay, so let's welcome Ma'am Maricel G. Garcia. Next is, of course, Ma'am Linjoy Martin. So she is also a teacher for grade 11 in oral communication, and she is currently teaching HE1, HE2, HE3, HE4, HE9, and IA1. Next, of course, on our list is Ma'am Leonora O. Del Mundo. So she is a grade 11 oral communication teacher also, and of course our master teacher in English department. So she is currently teaching the IA4, IA5, IA6, HE7, ICT1, and ICT3. And of course, the last teacher in the grade 11 level for oral communication teacher, yours truly. I'm Sir John Maverick M. Galang, but you can call me, of course, Sir Mavs. Okay, so I'm currently teaching HE5, HE6, HE8, ICT4, ICT5, ICT6, IA7, SMAU. Okay, so I'm glad to meet every one of you here for today, and let's go on with our discussion. Okay, so after we go through this module, you will be expected to learn the following. Of course, number one, you'll be able to differentiate the various models of communication. So later on, we're going to discuss about the different models of communication, since we've talked about the basic information regarding communication. Okay, so next one is, of course, number two, that will be explain the process of communication through elements involved. So later on, you will be able to learn how communication process takes place, and you will be able to identify the different components or elements of communication that is necessary in a certain process. Okay, so next one, the last on the list, the number 3, is to recognize the importance of the models in understanding the communication process as applied in everyday life. So you will be able to understand, you'll be able to appreciate the importance of communication models. Okay, so are you ready? Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone is ready to continue with our discussion for this week. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what's in this topic? Okay, so communicating with others takes us to a new experience. Am I right? Right? Because when we are communicating, when we are talking to someone else, we are, discovering, we are exploring not only our surroundings but also the person that we are talking to. Okay, so we are either the ones starting the conversation process or the ones receiving it, because we are exchanging roles. We can be the sender and we can be the receiver also. So later on we will dig deeper on the information about that. So as the exchange of information progresses, both the source and the recipient go through favorable or unfavorable experiences. Okay, so let me tell you this. Once we undergo or once we do communication or having an interaction with someone else, the result will vary. What do you mean by that? Because sometimes we are talking to someone else in a favorable condition. Everything is favorable both to the sender and the receiver. And sometimes we do misunderstandings, sometimes we do, failure in delivering the meaning of a certain message or in certain information, right? So that is considered as unfavorable condition because the result is unacceptable or the result is failing. Okay, so let's proceed with the next activity. Of course, we have the first activity here, as you can see on our screen right now. So I'm using a PowerPoint presentation. So this activity is entitled Word Pool. Okay, so the instruction is complete the paragraph below by choosing the correct word from the word pool. So you have to write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So what you're going to do here is to select the appropriate words to be filled in to the following blanks on the paragraph. As you can see here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items to be filled in with the proper words. So you have to answer that as part of our weekly module task. Okay, so this time I want you to look at the picture. As you can see, there are 5 people on the table. And what do you think they are doing? Of course, as you can see, there are foods, there are plates, there are cups. So most probably, or just to be sure, they are eating their lunch or either breakfast or the lunch or the dinner. Okay, I'm so confused. So sorry. So anyway, I think it's gonna be either lunch or dinner. Okay, so what's in? So the question here is, how often do you and your family eat all together? What do you normally talk about? When we eat together, we usually talk about things. It's either the status of your education in this year or in this time of pandemic, how's your day going, or planning for a family bond in the future. So that's those are some of the examples of the things that you need to talk about, and communication exists. Okay, so I want you to read the anecdote and extract the different communication situations that you will find in the story. So the story is entitled The Glitch by Divina P. Maming. So on your module, please refer to your module that the story about a short story entitled The Glitch is there on the next page. Okay. Okay, so I hope you have a great time reading the short story, and we will proceed with this topic now. What is it? Okay, so what is it? There are a lot of questions in our minds that we need to be answered. Okay, most especially in the process of communication. So number one, or first thing that I want you to know is to imagine your life and the world you live in without proper communication procedure. How do you think, or what do you think will be the situation of the world and the people around us without proper communication procedure? What if we are not talking to each other? Do you think we will be having a good relationship to each and everyone? Do you think that we will be able to develop? Do you think we will be able to have unity to finish a certain task? So is it hard or is it easy not to have a communication in our life? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so very good answer. I know that it is really difficult for us not to have at least a conversation or communication with our loved ones, our friends, our family members, and a lot of people, co-workers, right? So will there be order or chaos? What do you think? Will there be order or chaos? Of course, if communication doesn't exist, there will be chaos. That's my idea. What about yours? Do you think there will be an order or a chaos? Very good. So will there be understanding or disagreement? How's your answer? Okay, so there will be no understanding at all, right? Without communication. Of course, there will be disagreement because you cannot easily understand each other, right? So communication plays a crucial role in human life. So it facilitates the sending and receiving of knowledge and information, and it allows people to develop various kinds of social relationships. So it gives us an avenue for people to express their ideas, thoughts, feelings, and insights. Let me tell you something. I'll explain it to you. Okay, so with the use of communication, we will be able to connect ourselves to other people. We will be able to share our ideas to other people. We will be able to share what we feel to other people. We'll be able to express our emotion to other people, not only in verbal communication but also non-verbal communication. Okay, so according to Martinez the First, communication comes from the Latin word communis, meaning commonness. So it is a common system of signs, symbols, and behavior. Am I right? Yes, I'm right, because communication consists of signs. We use punctuation marks not only in writing. Okay, symbols. We are using alphabets to form words and sentences or even paragraphs, so we will be able to form a message. Behavior. Why behavior? Because we are using gestures, we are using movements or body language to express also a message to the one we are talking to, right? So it is really essential for us to share what we know, what we feel, what we want to say, what we want to do, right? So communication is really important to everyone. So now we're going to identify the models of communication. So actually we have 3 major parts of the models of communication, starting with the linear model. So for the linear model, there is one category or one example, and that is the next one, Shannon-Weaver Model. So that is a great example of linear communication model. So next is the interactive model. So for the example, or the best example of interactive model is Schramm circular model. Actually, there is another term for this model, that is Osgood Schramm circular model, because it is not only formulated by Schramm but also it is a collaboration between Osgood and Schramm, and it is circular model. The last one will be the transactional model, and the best example of that is the same name, transactional communication model. So we're going to discuss that later on as we go on with our discussion. So aside from these 5 models of communication, actually we still have one, the Dance helical model, which was formed and created by Mr. Dance. I'm not so sure what was the year it was created, but there is still another model for communication, the Dance helical model, which forms like a hurricane, starting from a little or a dot or a period and going through bigger and bigger, because he believes that communication changes over time. So anyway, we will just focus on this communication model, so we will continue with it right now. So I hope everyone is ready. So inhale, exhale, and let's have fun. Thank you. Okay, so we will first discuss about the linear communication. When you say linear in mathematics, I guess, because I'm not really into mathematics, or I'm not really into numbers. That's why I hate mathematics, because I love English, and that's the reality. Well, anyway, linear communication, meaning to say, when we say the word linear means one line going to one point to another point. Okay, so since it is a linear communication, it is considered as one way. So one way, focusing on the transmission of message to a receiver who never responds or has no way of responding to the information conveyed. How am I supposed to explain this one? Okay, linear communication is a one-way process, meaning to say, from the sender going to the receiver. A linear communication model, as we consider, is one-way communication. There will be no response coming from the receiver because it is only one way. For example, if I send the message to my friend through the use of letters or emails, meaning to say, if the message doesn't require any response, that is considered as a linear communication. Or for example, I am reading a book. Okay, I'm reading a book. So the author wrote the book and then expressed what he or she wanted to say to his audience, and the audience are the readers. So the readers will not be able to respond easily to the content of the book, or to the content in which the author shared with the readers or the audience. So meaning to say, that is already a one-way communication. Did you get that? Okay, so another example, we're in a radio broadcasting. Okay, so I am going to announce something in the radio, and my audience or receivers will be those who are listening to the radio. Okay, so I will announce something, then the receiver will receive it because they will listen to it, and then they will not be able to respond to what I say because I am in the radio, right? Not unless we are talking face to face. We are talking through our telephones or mobile phones. Okay, here is the example of a linear communication, and that is the Shannon-Weaver Model. So this is an example of a one-way communication process. So okay, so the Shannon-Weaver Model is considered as the mother of all communication models, since the first communication model was presented through a one-way communication process. So that's why this is the very first model that was created to represent a one-way communication. Okay, so for the Shannon-Weaver model of communication, as you can see here, there is a source, the transmitter, the channel, the receiver, and the destination. So for the source, that is considered as the sender. The transmitter is the process wherein the message has been sent. Next, the channel. The channel is the medium in which the message is passing by. So the medium or the material used in sending or transmitting the message. And next one is the receiver. The receiver. So the receiver will receive, of course, the message from the sender and from the channel. And once the receiver receives the message, there will be a decoding process. And then after the sender, there will be its destination. So it's either you respond or either not. Okay, so as you can see here, the source and the message transmitting or transmitted through a channel or signal, and then while the message is in the channel, there is noise. What do you mean by noise? Noise is not ingay in Filipino. Noise is the barrier in communication process, or it is a disturbance. It causes disturbance through to a communication process. For example, I am announcing something on the radio, and my receiver, just like what I've said earlier, are the ones who are listening to the radio. Now, if the noise exists during the delivery or during the announcements, it will cause failure or disturbance. So what do you mean by noise? As an example, I sent or I announced the message through the radio. Unfortunately, there is a brownout. Unfortunately, there is a brownout, or let's say there is a difficulty in signal reception to the receiver, and there is a problem with their radios, and there is a problem with the signal. Then most probably the announcement that I made will not be heard clearly by the audience or the ones who are listening the radio. Did you get it? Okay, another example. If I am talking to let's say if I am talking to my friend, okay, and that is through email, let's say through email, the noise will be the internet connection, just like what we are experiencing right now. So the problem is the internet connection. So there is slow internet connection, which causes delay to send the message to my friend, which is the receiver. That is already a noise. Okay, that is already a noise. Okay, so I hope you understand the Shannon-Weaver model of communication. Okay, next. The next one will be the interactive model. Okay, from the word interactive, meaning to say there is an interaction, there is an exchange of information both from the sender and the receiver, because it is interactive. Okay, so interactive model is an interactive approach, and it is a two-way communication process where a response is given after a message is sent. So the recipient of the action intentionally or unintentionally gives a feedback associated with the information received. Okay, to make it more clear, everyone, so I hope you're still having a good time there. So interactive model is a model or a communication model which requires a response, or which requires a feedback. What do you mean by feedback? The response, another term for response. Just kidding. Well, anyway, if it is interactive, meaning to say if the sender sends a message to the receiver, meaning to say the receiver will also play the role of the sender to send a response to the sender. So meaning to say, if the sender sends the message to the receiver and the receiver exchange the role of being the sender, meaning to say the receiver will send the message going back to the sender, and then the sender will now become the receiver. I hope you get that. So we're going to discuss clearly here on our next slide the example of interactive model. So there is an example here about a dialogue. Okay, so from the glitch earlier that you have read the previous page. Okay, so Griselda and her mother's dialogue, and that is from the story, if you were able to read the story. Okay, so Griselda said, "Nanay, I can smell the aroma of your best delicacy, adobo." And her mother said, "Aling Terry, yeah, I know. It is the favorite of the family, so adobo is what I prepared today." And Griselda said as a response, "I can't wait to taste it." Meaning to say that is already a response to the mother. Okay, and Aling Terry responded also to Griselda earlier. Okay, let's proceed. So the Schramm model, as you can see here, it is circular motion. It is a circular form of communication model. So Schramm in 1954 visualized the process of communication as an exchange of thoughts and ideas. So feedback was added to the Shannon-Weaver model. So the recipient of the message decodes it and creates a feedback based on his understanding of the communication or of the information sent, and vice versa. So there is only one element added to a Shannon-Weaver model, and that is feedback. And because of the feedback, it became the Schramm circular model. Why I said circular? Because as you can see on the diagram, there is a circular shaped of system in the communication process. So as you can see here, the girl on the left, okay, she is the sender. Of course, when you, let's say if you are a sender, there will be an interpretation in your mind. You are formulating the right word, you are formulating or you are combining words to express an idea. And that is going to the encoding process, because you are formulating or creating a thought. You are creating a thought and you are building an information. And that information is now a message. As you can see on the top, that is already a message. And the arrow here represents the channel or the mode of communication, or the way the communication has been sent. So the message is now created and has been sent to the receiver. Now, before the receiver receives the message, there will be encoding process. What do you mean by encoding process? The encoding process is the time wherein the receiver will interpret, comprehend, or even understand the message being sent by the sender. In Filipino, iintindihin na. So once you've heard, you've read, or you've even touched something which consists of a message, you will interpret its meaning. Just like how we look at a certain painting, right? Before we appreciate a painting, we need to comprehend or understand its details. The same with the communication process. If you will not listen carefully, if you will not read carefully, and if you will not feel carefully the message, then you will not be able to interpret what it really means, right? Not unless if you are having a noise once again, if you're experiencing noise once again. So for the decoding process, you will interpret the message. So once you have comprehended or understood the message, then you will be able to have or create the same way that the sender have done earlier. So you will also create your own idea. You will also create your own thought, and then it will undergo encoding process already. As you can see on the bottom part, after you decode the message and interpretation, and then you will create your own idea, and after that encoding process, there will be a feedback message at the bottom, and that consists of your response to the message which has been sent by the sender earlier. And then once again, the arrow represents the way the message has been sent. Okay, so it's going back to the sender, and now there will be exchanging of roles because the sender will now be the receiver of the feedback message. Did you get it? I hope you understand what we are discussing right now, and it's very easy to understand because this is just a circular motion, right? So it's easy to understand if we already know how these participants of the message acts, or how these participants like the sender and the receiver exchange information to each other. Try to talk to your friend. While she is talking, for example, you are listening to it, and that is already a decoding process, right? So in the time that you wanted to start a conversation with your friend and you wanted to have fun with him or her, you are thinking of what to say first, right? And that is an example of encoding. So that's it. So how are you? Just wanted to ask a question if you're doing fine, and I hope you are taking down notes because this is very important. And you can still go back to this video anytime because this will be uploaded on social media platforms. Okay, so next we're going to proceed with the 6 elements of communication. Okay, so let's focus first on the 6 elements of communication because this is very important. Okay, so the first one is the sender. What do you mean by the sender? The sender is the one who sends the message first, the first one to start the conversation. Next, the message. The message is composed of information, feelings, emotion, ideas, and etc. So which is being sent to the receiver. It consists of information, or let's say our knowledge, our ideas, our feelings, our emotions, our insights, and that consists of a message. So receiver. The receiver is the one who receives the message from its name. Receiver receives the message. Okay, so additional information about this is the sender, as you all know, and the receiver is also called as the interlocutors They are called as interlocutors or the participants. Okay. Next one is the feedback. Just like what I've said earlier, it is considered or serves as the response to the message being received. Okay, a response. Okay, encoding. When an idea or information is translated into words and expressed to others. So, formulation of ideas into words. How about decoding, the last one? It is when this idea or information is understood and interpreted by the receiver. So the time that you will be able to understand and interpret the message being received from the sender. So we're going to continue with our last model, which is the transactional model of communication. So communication is dynamic, right? Communication is dynamic. It is a complex nature. It takes place among individuals at any given time with any given subject. However, there are tendencies that barriers would interfere, which may create a sudden impact and change in the process of communication. So what do you mean by that? For example, you are talking to your committee because you will be having a program. And then while you are having an exchange of ideas, sharing of suggestions, you're having a brainstorming, and then all of a sudden there is also a group of students on your side talking about the upcoming election. And since you have also a role in that activity, your attention has been divided into two. And then the group of the students on the other side is considered as a noise because you can hear what they are talking about. And since you have also the part on that activity, your mind is also connected somehow to the conversation on the side, on the other group. So that is transactional model. And the way you talk to your current members has been affected because there is a shuffling of ideas or a randomizing ideas, both for the election and for the upcoming program. Okay, so here's a clear diagram of the transactional model. So the transactional model shows a circular process of interaction between the persons involved in the communication, with each one actively participating and sharing ideas with one another. So they are the communicators actively exchanging information and reaction. So as you can see on the diagram, okay, the transactional model, the communicator sends and receives the message because, as we all know, and just like what I've said earlier, that the sender and the receiver exchanges role, right? The sender becomes the receiver and the receiver becomes the sender. Okay, so the communicator sends and receives the message at the same time, responds and decodes the message because the sender encodes the message. At the same time, the sender decodes the message. Okay, so it's going through a channel and at the same time a feedback, because the feedback goes through a channel or the way the message has been sent. And then right after that, the next symbol there is the message. So the message is passing by, or it's either like this or it's either going back and forth. Okay, next, the feedback and the channel is there also once again, and then the receiver will decode and at the same time respond to the message has been sent, and that is an exchange of role already. Okay, that is an example of interactive model because there is an exchanging of ideas or information. Now, as you can see here, there is the letter A and letter B. What do you mean by that? That is the context wherein the communication process takes place. For example, in a classroom, the current location of the sender can be affected because of the let me revise that. The current location of the sender might affect or may affect the communication process because of its noise. The same with the receiver, right? So for example, let's say they are both in the classroom, and as usual, when you are inside the classroom, if there are no classes, there are noises. Aside from the voice, a loud voice of your classmates, or let's say the weather is too hot and the classroom is not well ventilated, that is already considered as noise. So the noise is continuously affects the communication process. Why? For example, here, while you are talking to your classmates in a face-to-face basis or one-on-one basis, and then one of your classmates told you or approaches you and told you at the same time that they need to you and your other friend needs to go home now because it's too late. So while you are having a communication or conversation with your best friend, it has been interrupted because of your other friend who is currently in a hurry to go home. So meaning to say that is transactional because you're having transaction with your best friend, and at the same time you have a transaction with your other friend, and the communication has been affected because of the noise. What is the noise there? Can I have an answer? 1, 2, 3. Very good. The noise there is your other friend because he or she called your attention and the communication process has been affected. Did you get it? Very good. That's good to hear. And the other example is just like what I've said earlier. If you're having a group talk with your members for our committees for the upcoming event, and there is also a group beside you talking about the upcoming Supreme Student Government election in which you will be a part of it also, meaning to say both are transactional communication. You are having a transaction with your current circle of people, and then you're having a transaction also to the other group beside you because you are taking responsibility or you're taking roles for both programs or activities. Okay, and at the same time you have been interrupted because of the conversation that is also necessary for you to know from the other group. So that is a transactional model and consisting with too much noise depending on the context, depending on the setting wherein the communication takes place. Okay, so I hope you understand our topic this week, and that is the last communication model for lesson 2. So as a recap, we have 3 major communication models, and that is linear communication model, next is the interactive model, and the last one is the transactional model. Okay, so what is linear? A one-way process of communication. What is interactive? There is circular flow of communication because there is a response or let me say a feedback coming from the receiver. So exchanging of roles. Transactional model, the communication process has been affected by noise. Always remember that depending on the communication situation. Okay, so I hope you understand our topic for this week, and I'm expecting that everyone will be able to answer the following activities for this lesson. So you have to answer the what's more. So there is a Venn diagram there, and you will show the similarities and differences of the three communication models there. Next, you will identify the elements that constitute the communication process by answering the crossword puzzle below. So you have to answer you have to write your answer on separate sheets of paper. So you have the instructions there. You will just have to fill out the appropriate word per boxes. Okay. Next, letter C for what's more. So read the given situations and fill the grid below by identifying the elements of communication. So there are given sentences, and then you will just identify who is the source, what is the message, who is the receiver, and you will identify the barrier or the noise if there is any. Okay. Next, letter D. So you have to write a response to each of the following dialogue prompts to complete the communication process. So here are the following. You have to just read that, and then you will create your own response. And if you have the response, that is already called as the interactive model. So I wanted to know what you have learned in this topic. So you have to answer the following questions on separate sheet of paper, of course. So what you can do, okay, so you have to try the following and then share it with us, what you have observed or what have you experienced during this activity. And for additional activities, list down examples of situation in each of the given communication models. So you just have to read the instruction and then you're good to go. And for the last part, of course, answer the assessment in the end of this lesson. Please refer to your module in page 24 to 25. So if you have the time, please check it out right now. And then that ends our topic for this week about models of communication. And I hope you understand a lot of information about the models, and at the same time, if you have time, you'll be able to, or you can do research. You can do research about more of the models of communication because there are a lot. So I've just given you the basic information or the basic models of communication. So once again, I'm Sir Mavs. I'm Sir John Maverick M. Galang, but you can call me Sir Mavs. And I am so thankful for being a part of your week and hope to see you on our week 4. So if you have questions, feel free to ask your oral communication teachers because they will be answering your questions right away. Okay? So thank you very much. See you next time.